What's good?
Hey, how are you?
Hey, the one and only. What's good?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so thankful that you've joined me to talk. Girl, I just want to start off by saying I love your vibe. Like, we tried telling you that when we first wrote the article, but like just everything, the identity you've created, the music. I just want to say I'm a fan, girl, of everything
Thank
you're doing.
you.
Keep doing what you're doing. No problem. And I just want to start off. I usually start off with these interviews just asking about like how you got started. Obviously, I know you start with ballet at 3, I think,
Mhm.
and you were born in Maryland, grew up on New York, and you went to California. So, like, how did everything begin? How did you find music? Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so you're like right on the money. I started doing ballet when I was 3. And I did that till I was like 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I started getting into sports and everything. But my uncle owned his own church. So that's like how I started singing, like in the choir.
Got you.
And then when I was in elementary school, I started singing in like school choir and everything too. But I didn't start like really training more until I was in high school. I did choir in high school too, and I took guitar. So it's kind of just like a little bit of a music background, but my sister had a big influence on it because she was in drumline like all through
Ooh,
high school
okay.
and even college. So she was like super into music. She still is. And I learned how to like read music kind of like from her first and then school as well. So I've always had an interest in it. And then my junior year of college, I started like really, really taking it seriously because I was just like, college is almost over. I knew I didn't really want to
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
have a career in
yeah.
fashion anymore. So I was
Yeah.
like, let me just like give this a go. And it ended up like actually working out for me. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna run with this.
Yeah. Now, your sister, you spoke about her. She's had a big influence on your music and what you've done so far?
Yeah, for sure. Cause like she's 8 years older than me. So
Okay.
she's a lot older than me. So when I was like really young, I was basically just listening to the music she was and like watching everything she was because I had no say.
Yeah.
So that definitely had a big influence on me. And she was just always like super into music. And actually, I started playing instruments in elementary school. I played the flute and I like played the violin a little bit, but that was mainly because she was in like band and everything.
Okay. Now, what inspiration, what kind of influences did you have when you first started listening to music? Like, who were you listening to?
A lot of like Sade and Prince.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
I'm
I grew up
familiar.
around with my parents, but then like my sister's influence too was a lot of like early 2000s and 90s R&B, so like Aaliyah and Maya and
Oh,
like Mariah Carey, like that whole area of music. It's like so good. So a lot of that, but when I was a teenager, I definitely gravitated towards like Frank Ocean, Lana Del Rey, like that whole alternative like music
yeah,
era.
yeah, yeah.
That's what I guess like spoke to me the most.
Yeah. No, I see it. I see in your music. Like, I just love like the kind of the identity you've built, especially with gray matter, and we're going to talk about it later. But I've also loved how you express yourself through fashion. I noticed that you studied fashion in New York. So, what kind of influence has that had on your creativity, and what has fashion taught you about music?
I think fashion and music go hand in hand. You can't really have one without the other. Even if the person's not into fashion, what they wear still like says a statement.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a good example of that is like a Frank Ocean or like a Childish Gambino, which they're not super like heavy into fashion, but what they wear is like a statement in itself. Because when Frank Ocean first came out, that like bandana thing he wore around his head all the time, that was like, and the
Yeah.
Hawaiian shirts, like that was like that's a vibe.
Yeah.
So I think it goes hand in hand, but fashion for me is very like artistic. Like I don't view it so much as like a trendy thing. I think it's just because I studied it in school and like I learned the background behind it, especially like how heavy it is in Europe and like they really view it as an art form. And I think music is the same thing and it kind of just all flows together.
Yeah. No, I can see you're really big in art, and especially I saw something that you like reading your favorite movie scripts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of what are some of your favorite movies, and how does that really get you creative?
I just started like getting into that because I didn't realize how much went into like the screenplays and how they actually
Oh
write
yeah,
the
it's crazy.
actions that people do and everything. And so I got into that, but I started like reading parts of Blade Runner 2049, the newest one, and then some other like older ones like Basic Instinct, like really old like 80s, 90s movies and stuff, just because when you read it versus watching it, you can see how like it translates and like also how the actor like interpreted it, which is really cool. But one that I really loved is Gone Girl. Like I love
Oh,
that
such a
movie.
good movie. Such a good
I love
movie.
that movie. And like she's crazy, but like she makes some really good points.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. No,
And
you're making me
listening
want to
about
watch it
her,
again now.
um, which is wild. But like reading that screenplay and how it translated into the movie and how everything worked out was like really cool. And actually, I finished a song yesterday that was like inspired by me watching that movie.
Wow. So
And
reading
it's
these
not like
scripts really, yeah, no, you go, you go, you go, you go.
it's not like a crazy like song or anything, but it's like inspired by like the relationship that they had and like the struggles and everything.
Yeah, so the reading scripts really have an influence on your music?
Yeah, because when I first started writing, when you write from like personal experience, it's a little bit more like taxing on you, I guess. When you write from like a fictional standpoint, you can be a little bit more creative and not feel like you're like so judged, I guess,
Yeah,
if that makes sense. So I used to write from a lot of like inspiration stemming from movies. So the first EP that I put out, almost that entire thing is just like inspired by me watching movies and like coming up with ideas
really.
off of my real life. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Now, you say I saw something on your Instagram and you like to play around with your name and you say it's raining in August. But I
Yeah.
just want to know where the inspiration came from for that name and where did you like, how did you come up with that?
So my birth month is August. So that's why like I had that. But I think when I was like looking for names, I think it was that like August was already taken or something like that. So I just added rain on the end of it because August. So like I studied Latin in high school for 3 years. So I'm really into like Roman and Greek mythology. And then the August stems from Augustus, which is the original month like in Rome. And then that stems from like royalty, like all of the emperor or whatever the rulers. So I was just like I added rain because I thought it
I
fit.
love that. I love that. Now, I want to talk about because you grew up in New York, right?
I grew up in Maryland, but I moved to New York when I was 18 for college. So like
Okay.
all
Yeah,
of
yeah.
your adolescent, like late adolescent growing pains in New
So
York.
so how were because obviously New York and California and now you're in LA, but like, would you learn about art being in New York for a while that like helped you transition to California?
My hometown is super small. It's very a lot of like
Oh
farms.
no, I understand you, girl. I understand you.
It is not like
I
in
got you. I
city
got you.
at all. So when I went to New York, it was kind of like a culture shock. I adapted really. Sorry, my mom keeps texting.
No, you're good.
um, it was kind of like a culture shock a little bit, but I adapted really well. And I think it was just because like I didn't have any of that when I was in high school, and that's what really, really what I wanted. So when I got it, I was like, okay, like this is amazing. But I just had like a totally different appreciation for like different cultures, religions, and I had so many friends of like different ethnicities that I didn't have before, and I think that just really made me appreciate like everything in life way more, and also just realize that there's more to life than like your little suburban bubble.
Yeah. Do you miss New York at all?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a sister that lives up there and like I just cuz I'm in San Diego now and I always miss it, you know? It's weird cuz like the two coasts are completely different. So like
Totally.
which one do you prefer? Do you prefer California?
I prefer New York in the summer
Okay, I got
and
you. I got
California all the rest
you.
because
Yeah, yeah,
winter in New York is not fun
yeah.
at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you. Do you have a favorite like spot to go to in New York cuz I know everyone always got those food spots. Do you have one to recommend to me?
If you haven't had Prince Street Pizza,
Prince
that's
Street Pizza?
classic. It's in Soho. The lines sometimes are like wrapped around the corner, but like it's worth it. The pizza is really, really good. But then also like people underestimate the dollar pizzas. Like those places are good. It's literally $1 a slice. And it's
That's what I'm
actually
trying to tell people, man. That's what I'm trying to tell people. That's a good deal.
it's good.
Now, what sparked the transition from fashion to majorly participating in music for you?
I think it was that when I went to New York for the first time, I kind of burned myself out. Like I jumped straight into school and doing internships and working. And the fashion industry, as much as I love it, in New York specifically, and especially women's fashion, it's a little bit like cutthroat. And it can, if you're like a really, really creative person that just wants to like make cool stuff and connect with people, it can be a little tiring. And it's also extremely competitive, and you're always like comparing yourself to other people. And I think music is just a little bit more free flowing, and you can still have fashion included in like the stuff you're doing.
Yeah, I love that. Now, when you're first starting off though, what did you see in like music that you saw in yourself? Like not just about like the singing, but like just the process and everything about like what did you see in yourself that you were like, okay, like this is who what I'm supposed to do.
I think it was when I love writing. Writing is probably my favorite part of the whole process altogether. So when I realized that like I could actually create stories or just paint a picture with words that someone else could connect to, and it would like make a difference in their life or have some type of impact. I think that's really was like, okay, I should really do this. Especially when I think about songs or like artists that had an impact on my life, especially as a teenager, and even like hearing a song that's 10 years old and it's still having the same effect on you that did back then. I think that's just like I was like, okay, I want to do this for sure.
I love that. Now, what kind of artists are you listening to right now that like kind of impacted the whole story behind Gray Matter and the production behind that?
Gray Matter is definitely Sade and Frank Ocean. And
I love
also
that.
there's another artist. I she's kind of popular. I feel like she's popular just because I love her music and I've followed her since I was in high school. But her name's Banks.
I think I've heard of her. I think I'm familiar. Yeah.
She's kind of, I feel like she may be bigger in Europe, but she's an American artist. But her stuff is very like alternative R&B, and it's a little bit darker. But her songwriting and just like her whole aesthetic is so cool. And she's like, she kind of has like a Bjork vibe where she's like a little weird, but like it
Yeah.
works. I really like it. So definitely those three people had a huge influence on me, mainly in like the writing realm of the project. But as far as sonically, like the beats and everything, I think it was more focused on like kind of a Sade area or like a newer kind of R&B vibe for sure.
Yeah, that's dope. Now, what attracted you to that type of music though, like that genre, like what you're doing right now? What attracted you to that?
I think that's what feels the most comfortable to me, because when I first started, it was more kind of like pop, like teetering the line between pop and R&B. And then when I was like, hey, let me just strictly try R&B, soul, kind of that area, it felt way more comfortable, especially for like the way that I sing. It just clicked a lot better than pop. And also pop, I feel like can be a little bit empty sometimes and like its impact and like the feeling of it. So I
Yeah,
think R&B just kind of has a bigger like grab on you.
yeah. Have you explored any other genres at all? Like, are you ever like, are you intrigued to explore other things?
I love hip hop and I love rap. I can't rap. That's not
Girl,
gonna
you gotta try. Gotta
that's
hop on
not
one
gonna
track.
happen.
Gotta try, man.
I mean, I could try. I don't think it would be good though. But
August Rain dropping some diss tracks.
I've always liked that. So I do want to play around more with that kind of like the harder trap beats and everything. But lately, I've been really into like old school Mariah Carey, like when she was transitioning from like pop R&B princess, the whole thing. So I kind of want to get more into not like dance records, but even like hip hop and R&B, like the early 2000s was more like dance, but it was still smooth. And I kind of want to like play around in that more.
Yeah, I love that. Now I wanna get to the new project, Gray Matter EP out now. I listened to it a bunch of times. Favorite track I gotta say is Closer. That's my favorite right now. But
Really? Thank you.
no problem. I've been listening it for a couple of times, but I just realized how complete the project was. You know, like everything seemed to fit when it came to like the actual cover of the project and then what the songs meant. So I kind of wanted to know, how did you develop that project? What was the inspiration behind it? And really, how was just like the process of building that for you?
So the whole project was kind of inspired by like gray matter is like something that's actually in your brain. It's like where your nerves kind of are, and like it deals with emotion and like how you perceive things in your life. So all of the songs are kind of tied to relationships and love. And I actually got out of a 2-year relationship earlier this year. So that's kind of what like inspired a lot of it, and like dealing with different things in relationships and how you interpret stuff. And I liked the phrase gray matter because I feel like love and relationships is very gray. It's not black and white. And so I thought it fit all together. But the cover was actually shot by one of my friends, Bianca. She's a photographer here in LA. And I gave her like all the mood boards and I told her like what the project was going to be. And she was like, okay, like let's do the beach. And like my friend styled it for me, Maria. And we just like went out to Malibu and like just played around with the environment. And like it turned out really good, but she was
It
definitely like,
did. It came out really well.
thank you. She was heavy on the Sade vibes. She was like, we have to do something like that.
No, it came out really well. So but I really want to know what differences you see in this one than your past one. I think the past one's called Delusions of Grandeur, right?
Grandeur.
Grandeur. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of differences have you seen between the one that you just released and your first one?
Definitely like my lyrics. I think I've gotten a lot better with the lyrics. And then also the first project I produced by myself 100%.
Wow.
So this one I started working with a producer, and he did 2 songs on this. So it was a lot of the load taken off of me, just having beats that were already made and not having to worry about all of that. And we're actually going to work on another project that we're probably going to put out like next year, collaborative, which is really exciting. But
What's that
definitely,
like for you, like working with a producer now? What's that like?
I really like it just because I click with him. And
Uh-huh.
like when I explain something to him, he understands it, and the beats he sends over to me pretty much always hit for the most part, unless it's something like super experimental and I'm like, I'm not sure. But for the most part, he really gets like what I'm trying to do. And in the past, when I've worked with producers, it was not, they didn't really understand what I was trying to do, or they were like trying to push it in a direction like I was not trying to go in. Or like I've had producers send me like real trap beats, like hard rap trap beats. And I'm like, you know, you know who I am. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, what? No, but I kind of want to know like what, because you said your songwriting evolved. So
Mhm.
what would you see in that you knew that like, oh, like I'm at the next level now?
So 6 actually, that one is probably my favorite lyrically, just because it's not literal, like in any sense. It's explaining like the feeling of euphoria and love and like the ups and downs and everything, but it uses a lot of like imagery in terms of like referencing stuff that doesn't really make sense. But if you know what I'm talking about, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
I got a lot of that from like listening to Frank Ocean songs, because some of his older stuff, I would say, is very kind of like you don't really know what he's talking about sometimes. But then if you like go on Genius and you like break down the lyrics, you're like, that makes sense. So a lot of like that type of writing that pushes you to think a little bit more in a creative way of like how to explain things, that it's not so like basic, for
Yeah.
sure.
Is that where you think you've like evolved the most? Is your
Yeah,
songwriting?
yeah, for sure. The singing too, but like I think like you could have a great voice and the lyrics can still just not, they can be
Yeah.
like empty.
Do you ever have those moments though when you're like, because I write myself, like I write like poems and stuff like that, but do you ever have like those creative kind of blocks and like how do you overcome that? Because I know like, especially with someone like you where all your songs are revolved around like love and relationships and most of them are around like experiences that like you've had. So like
Mhm.
when you don't have those experiences, how are you finding inspiration for all these songs?
So a lot of like watching watching shows and movies, to get inspiration from things. Sometimes even like talking to my friends about stuff and like things that they've experienced and kind of changing it a little bit so it's not so literal to them, but using that as inspiration. Or if I'm having like a block with writing, I try to push through it, but sometimes you just have to like take a break for like a day
Yeah.
or something and just like go outside or do something else that's not music related, and then it'll come together like a day later or something. But when I have like real blocks, it's mainly I watch like a lot of movies. I try not to listen to music just because I don't want to end up writing something that someone else wrote, because I've done that before. I've come up with a lyric and then like
Really?
a week later I'm like, wait, I heard that in a song and I didn't even remember, and now I have to change the entire song because I'm not about to like steal their words. But so yeah, I try not to listen to music if I'm in a block, but it's a lot of like movies and shows.
What type of movies and shows are you watching?
A lot of old ones.
Really?
Yeah, from like 90s, 80s, Basic Instinct, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like
Oh,
that
that's a good one.
whole realm. Yeah.
Do you have any like what type of shows are you watching right now? Do you watch anything like, because obviously there's so much content now. Like
Hmm.
it's hard to keep up sometimes because like you have like
Yeah.
the shows, the music and everything. But how do you, because you kind of see yourself as like an oldie with like all the music and everything. But do you ever try to expose yourself to new types of waves of creativity, whether it's music or these shows? How do you try to maintain like staying up to date with what's in trend while also trying to continue with what actually interests you?
Yeah. I think for that is I do listen to like newer music, but it's more so like I just stumble upon it. I don't actually like look for it. So I'm obsessed with TikTok. Like I'm not even gonna lie. Like
I feel like
I'm a,
everyone is at this point.
and I'm a Gen Z, so like it's okay. I can feel like that.
Girl, I'm with you
A
on that.
lot of like Gen Z, like there's people that make playlists and then they'll like post it on their TikTok, and the playlist has like 50,000 likes, and like it's a huge playlist. The person has like great taste, and so I'll like listen to that. So all of Spotify, like Spotify, TikTok, and then YouTube sometimes too. They'll recommend videos for you, and I'm like, I've never heard of this artist, but this is amazing. So finding stuff that way, but the newer people that I gravitate towards are actually like more, I guess, up and coming artists, not like huge ones. Just because I feel like there's more creativity and like innovation in that area than with the really big artists.
Yeah. Do you ever put stress on yourself to create? Like, is there ever a time when, like, let's say you're going through like a creative block and you feel like nothing's going on, but you try to like stay organized? Like, do you put deadlines on creativity?
I try not to with the projects, like Gray Matter and then the first one. I did have a deadline for them, but I was able to like work it out just because if when I'm working on music, it's like a binge. So I'll write like music constantly, or if I go to the studio and something doesn't get finished, I will like try to go the next day or as soon as possible to get it done. Just because I don't like waiting to get things finished. So yeah,
Yeah. So you just like to let it flow, basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
And unless it's like a full project, like in the past I have done deadlines. With this new one though, I'm working with the producer. We have like we have boundaries set for like the track list, like how many tracks we want, and playing around with the sound, but there's no date, which is nice because I'm
Yeah.
able to kind of just create stuff freely without having to be put pressure like, okay, it needs to be out in a month or like whatever.
Yeah. Now, talk to me about the music video that you just released. I
Yeah.
loved it. I love the direction behind it. I forget. I think the name. I forget the name. Who was the creative director for that? It was Richard something, I think.
Yeah, Richard Burns.
Yeah, amazing work he's doing. But how is that like to actually like have something that you made and be showcased in like this whole video setting? How was that like for you?
It was really exciting because this was the first music video that I've shot that I really loved, and I had like the whole vision board planned out with like the timestamps on it and everything for like how I want the scenes to go, and I sent it over to him, and he was so excited because everything was so organized. But I was like ready to like go in there and like get it done and make sure that it just looked really good visually because I wanted it to match the song really well. Um, and it made me even more excited to like shoot visuals in the future because I feel like I can be way more creative and abstract with stuff now than I was in the past. So it was really exciting. Also because like that's the song that's doing the best right now on the EP, and it has the video. So I feel like it goes perfectly together.
Yeah. what kind of story were you trying to tell with the direction you wanted that video to go?
So this one, the vision board actually had like the opening scene was me walking into the space, and it was supposed to represent like walking into a relationship. And then
Oh,
like
wow, I didn't even think of that.
and then when you're in the space, that's the relationship happening. And then at the end, when it like zooms out, that's like the end of the relationship. Originally, it was supposed to be me walking out of the space, but we ended up changing it. But it still has the same idea.
I love that. I have to watch it over now. I missed that. But you said that you always aim to take your listeners to another place with your songwriting and vocals. And with Gray Matter, my question is, what place do you want to take them with this project?
I wanted it to be in an area where like you don't have to put expectations or like parameters on your relationships, not even just like romantic but friendships too, and like just letting things happen and maybe not questioning things as much, just because like that's what I normally do and it doesn't work out. Like when you put like crazy expectations and stuff, it just doesn't, it makes it way more intense than it needs to be. And I also just wanted to like explain, I guess, my viewpoint on relationships and like different feelings and emotions that we all go through, even though like sometimes it feels like we're the only person that's actually dealing with it. It's like not everybody is literally going through the same thing all the time.
Yeah, no, really, honestly, you got to say that again. But I see that I feel like a big piece of your music is like, it seems like you continuously advocate for people to like kind of be vulnerable in sort of respects. And I see that on your Instagram and everything like that. You continuously advocate for mental health and personal development. And Color House is that's a big part of it. But some people are not really open to talking about that on their Instagrams, but you are. And I kind of want to know, how have you been able to kind of let your feelings out to like all your followers and be vulnerable, knowing that like there's so many opinions, especially around social media, that can grab a hold of your content and kind of say something about it?
In that area, I think I've always been very like into mental health and like bettering yourself ever since I was in high school. I like converted to Buddhism for like 2 months when I was in high school when I was like 16 or 17. So like I'm like the hipster kind of like
That phase.
um, but I think I forget who, I think it was honestly Selena Gomez that said this a few years ago. I like Selena Gomez. I'm not ashamed.
She's good. She's good. She gets
She's
a
like
lot
a
of
nice
hate. I don't.
person.
Yeah, like I don't. She gets a lot of hate too. I don't get it.
She does. I don't either. But I
Yeah.
think she said like a few years ago or something, like there's more strength in being vulnerable than being like closed off and like hard with people. And that resonated with me because when you really think about it, like the people that own their emotions and just like let it out, normally like you can't mess with them as much as someone who like holds everything in and is like ready to burst at any moment. So I think if we like if you're just more open with how you feel and everything, like your life is going to be a lot better. Also with relationships, because like a lot of stuff is communication issues, which is like if you just talk about how you're feeling,
That's what I'm saying.
it would be so much better. Like you're making it harder for yourself.
I've been trying to say this to people, man. No, but I completely agree with you. And I think I see that through your music, and especially through Gray Matter. I mean, the songs are just so deep, and I love stuff like that. So I wanted your opinion, though. Do you have a song on the project that stands out to you the most, that like you're like, that's it, like that's the one that like when you look back on this project, you'll think about that song?
I think Is It Not Right?
Okay.
For sure. Just because the like that one lyrically is my favorite. I think that one and Six are probably lyrically my favorites. And then the beat, and also Is It Not Right isn't that long. Like I think it's under 3 minutes or it's like a little bit over 3 minutes. So everything's kind of compacted in it, but I love the lyrics and how everything is set up and you get the point of what I'm trying to say without it having to be like drawn out. And then the fact that it has a visual with it too, I think kind of just pulls it all together. But that one for sure, I love that one.
So what type of story are you trying to tell through that song?
Um, that one is definitely relationships and just like maybe wanting somebody that you shouldn't really want, but like you do, and contemplating with that, which everyone has dealt with and I've dealt with too. So I think that was really relatable. And that's the first time that I wrote something that was like really pertaining to myself and situations that I've been in before. So it like hit home for sure. I was like, someone is going to relate to this 100%.
No, I love it too. It's such a, it just, I feel like it's hard to explain, but like it tells each song is very similar. Like if you listen to it, but if you actually like hear and listen to the song, like, you understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Each one tells a very different story, but it's just very beautiful in its own ways. So I love it. But
Thank
no problem. And I like to finish the interviews with two questions I usually ask people. And I feel like you'll give a very deep answer to this, I feel like. But what's one kind of mental health or creative tip you could give to someone? Because obviously, you know, you talked about being vulnerable and just being able to express your feelings. But what's one thing you could tell kind of anyone that's like in creativity or even outside of it? Just one thing you could tell them, one tip. What would it be?
Don't judge yourself. I think that's really good because when I first started writing, sometimes I would like, or you get paranoid about what people are going to say and you start judging yourself before anybody else even judges you. And it just completely cuts off your creativity and like your ability to go deeper emotionally. So don't judge yourself for like what you're feeling or what your perspective is. Just like go with it. You can always edit stuff afterwards, you can always take stuff out. So just be open and let it flow. And then afterwards, you can nitpick it or do whatever you want.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like it kind of goes back to social media. I always go back to it. I feel like mental health has a very big impact with social media. And I feel like we're always so afraid to kind of show that side of us that we don't want other people to see.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of leads to us being like, oh, should I do this? Should I not? So I kind of understand just the whole being not be able to judge yourself because it's just so hard not to really in this type
Yeah.
of society we have. So, but my last question, this might stump you, it stumps a lot of people. What's your definition of creativity?
Oh, that's a good one.
See, I knew it.
Good one.
Everyone tells you this every single time.
My definition of creativity, I think it's whatever feels the best to you. Like your ability, actually no, this is a good TikTok comes in handy. I saw it on TikTok. Oh my gosh. This girl was like saying that creativity, like creative people like sometimes don't know how to explain their talent or like what it is that they do. And really, we just take the world and reality and information and process it and turn it into art. That's literally like what we're doing. And not everybody has the ability to like take what's happening to them and process it and turn it into something else. So I think I'm just gonna take it from her. That's why I think creativity.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Really, it was an amazing chat. You're the best. Last question though, do you have anything upcoming that you want people to check out? Obviously, you just released your EP, Gray Matter. Do you have any future things coming out before 2020 ends? Obviously, it's been a crazy year. So, I mean, let us know what's going on. If you have anything coming up, I would love to know.
I'm definitely doing a few different photo shoots, like with my friends, just getting like creative stuff out there. I might end up doing another visual for one of the songs, or still kind of like working through it. But for next year, I'm definitely putting out more singles. I'm working with my producer Prometheus, so we're doing like a whole project together. There's going to be like a few singles and then a full project probably towards like the end of next year, most likely. So definitely look forward to that. But I'm excited. The visuals are probably going to be like insane for that one too.
Can't
But there's no
wait.
timeline for it, so we can just like let it happen as we
Yeah.
want it. So I'm super excited.
Awesome. No, I'm excited for you. And I mean, the project Gray Matter, congrats to you.
Thank
I could
you.
just see the evolution of your music and it's really amazing to watch. I love seeing that stuff, just people innovating and evolving. And it's amazing to see. But thank you. You've been the best. And yeah, I'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Stay creative.
You too.